Okay, perfect. So the meeting is being recorded, everyone. Um, let's see, is this showing? Just trying to share my screen. Sorry, there's too many windows open per usual. All right, great. So I've got it here and just wanted to share and get everybody in the mood for chatting with one another, talking about partnership. We'll be going through this a little bit faster than we did in office hours, but want to thank everybody for joining and getting warmed up. And once again, if you're able, go ahead and check the interpretation box so you can get to French. Cherchez le globe et cherchez français et vous pouvez écouter dans français. So the importance of partnership, I believe we understand it needs to happen. We want to understand, quickly how partnerships are necessary and why. Identify what your key business is so that you can then figure out others who can help you complete the rest of what your business needs in order to be successful. So for the first thing, it's figuring out what your core business is. Just want to share a story. I was on the call this morning with an entrepreneur from India who's going to be joining our Land Accelerator South Asia later this month. And he has a fantastic company that does aquaculture. They're IP protected. They have a patented protected technology that manages tanks of water where fish are swimming there. It's 70 times more productive than many other aquaculture farms that are going on in India right now. 70 times more productive per square footage of land used. And it's just fantastic. It has the potential to change the world. But he's having a hard time scaling. And I spoke with him. I said, well, what is it? He says, listen, we should be able to get a system up and running in 2 days. It's taking us 2 to 3 months. We have to do manufacturing, transportation of our solution. We have to install it. We have to train the people how to use it. We have to follow up with them. So there's so many business activities they're doing that they're actually finding it's very slow to get up and running. So this is where the idea of identifying your core business comes in. What can you do that no one else can do? And what other partnerships can you find in the way to really make your growth possible? So again, a similar story to our colleague Francesca, who is in Kenya. She creates fertilizer, but she finds so many different things that she needs to do every day: collecting vegetable waste, identifying farmers to get that from, research and development for creating the best fertilizer, processing it, making it, distributing it, marketing it, training farmers. She had to do it all. But she found out at the end of the day, her key value was actually in producing the fertilizer. And then she just needed to find someone to buy it. So she created partnerships for farmer outreach and training, partnering with nonprofit organizations and farmer cooperatives that might train many, many farmers. She partnered with organizations on product distribution to different stores throughout the region. And she also found a partnership through marketing, so someone could figure out how to make it look good for her. So all of these stories are just to say you might be facing the same thing. So just focus in on what your key activity is. And this relates to the business model canvas, which is a really great learning tool that you can access plenty of information online about. You'll see the key activities box there between partners and activities. And so this is important because we're talking about partnerships, which influence the value proposition and the activities. So just to go quickly, how to form a partnership. There's a really great article, so we'll put these slides up today on Mighty Networks. But basically, identify your strengths and weaknesses. You cannot do it all, but what do you bring to the table? Then identify people or organizations that could strengthen your weaknesses. This can be pretty simple. You can identify the benefits that you would provide to each of these organizations. So for instance, make a list of different organizations you think could help you out in a certain way and write down how they can help you and how you can help them. Two examples here. If you have a chain of stores, perhaps I'm selling a product that you could sell in your stores and therefore you could make money. It's a very win-win situation. So a lot of the partnerships are very basic and you'd understand it. So if you are a farmer producer organization, perhaps I'm providing an input that could really help your farmers be more profitable. And so therefore I approach you and see if you'd like to partner. So it doesn't have to be complicated, but you have to think of things from the partner's point of view. And once you do that, you might want to draft up a partnership proposal and outreach strategy before you even reach out to them. And then you think, how do I deliver that? How do I deliver that message? There's no set way. And you can deliver it on the phone. You could go to their place of work for a casual visit, unannounced perhaps, or maybe you need to schedule a meeting with many people, a formal meeting. So there's no right way to do it, but it depends on your knowledge of the company or the organization or individual you'd like to partner with. And think and look into the missions. Are they compatible? So I want to just end there. And I think we've all gotten enough into our minds about what partnerships could be. So I hope that many of you have been able to write, if you are English or French, after your name. Not too many of you have. We've asked you to do that every time so far. So what I'm going to do in order to get us into breakout rooms is I'm going to make automatic breakout rooms, actually. And I'm going to put 5 people in each room. And if I see that you're French, I will then try and move you into a French room. So what I think we should do with the remaining 20 minutes of our session is get to know other people who will be in your breakout room. And when you do that, you can just do the normal things, which is share your name, your company name, your country. You can share about your value chain that you're working in. And you can also share a little bit what kind of partnerships you're looking for and what you'd hope those partnerships could do for you. You don't have to think about what the other side can bring to you right now because this is an internal group, but maybe just think about what partnerships you're looking for and what benefits you're looking for from those partnerships. And you can just share that with the group. Maybe go around, each of the people in your group can share that. And you can think, if there's anyone that you know, or if you think you'd like to have a follow-up call with anyone in your group, take down the contact information, the emails, and follow up afterwards. The main point of this half hour that we join ahead of time is to get to know other folks in the group. So also before I set you to the group breakout, wanted to let you know the main topic of our presentation today will be around the investor slide deck. So many of you have started a deck already. That's fantastic. You can build off of that. This is going to be an investor slide deck from Luni's point of view. So he has seen many, many, many slide decks. He's been a part of investing in different companies around Africa and around the world in the social impact space. So we're probably going to really want to hear what he has to say about that and how you can build off of what you might already been creating in your decks and how you can utilize your decks in an effective way. So that will be the topic once we come back. And of course, the decks will also help you with your partnership outreach as well. So without further ado, I will be assigning people to breakout rooms automatically. And then, let me see. And then I will be reassigning folks who are speaking French to French only rooms, okay? So let's get started. And let me see. Yep, I will open the rooms now. And just one more time, you want to introduce your company and yourself, your country, and what kind of partnerships you're looking for. And we'll be there for 20 minutes. So here we go. Get ready to join. All right. Everybody has been invited to join a breakout room now. And if you are French, you can come back into this main room and I will reassign you. Okay. That's pretty. For those of you who are still in the room, we're getting into breakout rooms, so you should be able to join. If you need help, feel free to unmute yourself. But we should be getting into breakout rooms at this moment. So try and look for the join button and you should be able to join. You should be able to join a breakout room at this point.
Pad. All right. Here's Steve on stage talking about the iPad, and behind him on the screen, which is this gigantic screen, is not a whole lot of text. There's not paragraphs and paragraphs of text. There's not even sentences of text. There's just a picture of the iPad. That's it. That's all he needed behind him because he wanted the audience to hear what he was saying. He didn't want them distracted by reading a bunch of text behind him. And the same thing's true when you're pitching in front of your audience. Every once in a while, he would talk about some important large figure, some number. And when he talked about a big number appeared on the screen behind him. Very, huge, 100-point type, 150-point type, even maybe 200-point type if it's a small enough number. And the only text that was on there was just enough so you knew what that was about. So when a still picture was taken later, or in your case, when you present the deck, when you send the deck to somebody later, they remember what the number's about. Big pictures. So this is a famous moment in one of his talks in the later years. He talked about Apple being the intersection of technology and liberal arts. Okay, and so how do you talk about the intersection, right, of two places? Well, a metaphor of that would be the intersection of two streets. So this is the style of a street sign from San Francisco, which is the nearest city to where he grew up and where he lived. And so they took the street sign analogy, turned it into a picture, and that's the picture that's sitting behind him. Again, complementing his words. Every once in a while, one time only per presentation or per product that he was pitching, did he have any text on the screen, like any real amount of text? This is what Apple used for bullet points. No dots, no arrows, no squares, nothing that's actually a bullet on here, but this is a list of bulleted items. And so this is the deepest, most detailed part of the presentation. This is the benefits of this particular technology. This is the A4 chip, right? And you can see even the title of the bullet list is just another bullet. Okay, this is the A4 chip. It's got 32 gigs of storage, and he would go one by one through these items. He wouldn't reveal them one at a time. No animation here, just a whole bunch of text on there, and he would walk through this in about a minute or two. Sometimes he'd be talking about price, and when he talked about price, he would either have a picture of the item and a price, or just the price. In this case, just the price, not even an explanation of what it is, because you have that from the last 5 minutes of the presentation on what product it is. Right? You don't need that. You don't need that repeated. Lots of pretty pictures of what he's selling. Lots of pauses. One thing you'll notice when you go back and watch the Steve Jobs presentations is that he stops a lot. He just stops. He just stops talking, which is something that a lot of entrepreneurs don't understand how to do. You want to provide your audience. The whole reason for a pitch is to have a conversation. You want to pitch for a few minutes, and you want them to then ask you questions, because if they're not asking questions, they're not interested in what you're doing. So you want some pauses for the information in the room to calm down, right, to soak into the brains of the audience. And especially when you're one-on-one pitching with an investor or pitching with a customer, you want them engaged with you. You want them talking to you. You don't want them just listening for 20 minutes or half an hour or an hour. This is what makes it really awkward to try and teach this stuff over Zoom. I can't see you. If we're doing this live, I would pause a little longer and somebody would ask me a question, right? So what makes these great is that they're simple. They have as few words as needed. As few words as needed to convey the information. Not as many words, not as much detail as you could squeeze into that time period. As little detail as you can get away with presenting that gets people excited, right? That's usually done backwards. And then these pitches are practiced more than you can imagine. Simply more than you can imagine. So Steve Jobs, everybody thinks Steve Jobs is just a natural performer, that he can just stand up and sell you a pencil. And he probably could, but it won't come across in the same way as those pitches, because those pitches took him 3 months to put together. He practiced those hundreds of times over 3 months. Everything was questioned over 3 months. Every extraneous item was taken out over 3 months, right? And I actually got to speak to his to the person who created the slides and helped him make these presentations, and he confirmed this is true. Steve really did obsess over these. Every line, every minute, every second of these presentations were scripted. The best one of all time is the iPhone pitch. The URL is on here. You'll get a copy of the slides. You can pull it out. You can just search the internet. It's up there. It's on YouTube. And last bit of proof, just to show that he wasn't natural, that this is truly a practiced art, is that Steve Jobs presented to the City Council of Cupertino, California. Apple built this brand new headquarters, and they had to go get permission from the city, just like you need permission when you build anywhere. Steve was the person they sent. He presented to the Cupertino Council, and you'll see when he's presenting there, he's stumbling and doing as poor a job as any other presenter. All right, so that's our bar. Our bar is to be like Steve. Let's see how we get there. Let's start with a real pitch deck. So I'm going to pitch this as if I were David Opio from Uganda. The dates have been changed to modern times, or it was last time I presented this. So we're off by a year. So I'm going to be pretending to be David, and I'm just going to run through this, and I'm not going to be as good as Steve because it's not my company, but I'll do my best. All right, thank you for having me here today. My name's David Opio. I'm here to present you Nsimbuko. Big problem in the world. 1 billion people are farmers. It's the biggest industry in the world. Almost everybody in Africa is a farmer or a child of a farmer. I was a farmer when I was growing up too. I grew up with my mom. Here's my mom. One of the problems that farmers have, especially in Uganda, is they just don't have access to the banks. Right? So 326 million Africans are like that. They don't have a bank account. 28 million people in Uganda. They have very limited access to financial services. They can't get everything that a bank offers. It's a problem. And the solution has been around for a long time. The solution is saving and credit co-ops. You probably have this in your country too. In Uganda, we call them SACCOs, right? Simply saving and credit co-ops. The issue with SACCOs is that they all run on paper, almost all run on paper. They're very inefficient. A lot of money goes missing. About $20,000 a year per SACCO goes missing. Sometimes it's corruption and people are stealing. Sometimes it's just bad record keeping. Trying to keep track of the money from 100 farmers on paper is kind of hard to do. So we have a solution. It's called MOBIS, the Mobile Banking and Information Software. Right? It's a modern system. It puts the back end of the SACCOs in the cloud, and it puts the front end on the phones, and everybody's happy. So for the SACCOs, what do they get? They get transparency. They get some more trust from their farmers because everything is visible. And they get to be much more efficient at running. They don't have to worry. They don't have to train people on how to run the back end. It's run for them in the cloud. For the farmers, they get much more transparency too. They can see what their bank balance or their balances in their accounts. It's much more simple, right? If they want to move money around, it's all connected to the mobile money systems, and it's right on their phone. They make a deposit, they get a text message. When they want to make a payment, they can do that on their phone. Nice and simple. Opportunity is huge. So there are 5,000 SACCOs in Uganda. And then across the border in Kenya, there's another 300,000. They call them chamas over there. So how do we make money? Well, we charge $1,000 per SACCO per year for the software. And then we charge 0.5% for all the transactions that go on. In the first 9 months of this company, we've made a lot of progress. We signed up 500 SACCOs. We have 40,000 farmers using the software. They have $500,000 of their savings, equivalent dollars, right? It's in shillings. They have the equivalent of $500,000 in savings in the system, and they've taken out $200,000 in loans, right? These are saving and credit co-ops. They lend money to each other. All right, the growth. Well, here we are in 2019, and we have our 40,000 farmers. And next year in 2020, we expect to grow that to 200,000 farmers. And then by 2023, we expect to break out, have 2 million farmers using the system and $2.5 million of income into Nsimbuko. So once again, my name is David Opio. We have a great team working on this with me. Utim Gerald is my co-founder and COO. And then we have people doing software development and sales and marketing and everything else. This is such an important problem that the government of Uganda has told all the SACCOs that they need to put their back end in the cloud, right? And they've put us on the top of the list saying we're one of the trusted providers to do this. We've also had support from the Fledge Network. So we've been to Seattle to be part of Fledge Seattle. We've gotten training, we've gotten some investment, we got some follow-on funding. And what we're looking for now is $250,000 of growth, right? This is our Series A. We have a $1 million pre-money valuation. We have our first $75,000 committed. And with this money, we're going to use it to go and get more SACCOs. We're going to use it for marketing and sales. And we're going to add some new services like healthcare savings and equipment loans. So thank you. And I'm open for questions. Right. All right. So that's what a pitch looks like. That is a typical pitch That's all the topics that are expected to be covered minus one, right? This is the list, as you'll find in the book, both books, in fact, the blue book and the orange book. This is what the audience expects to see if they're an investor. And so when this is done, if you're pitching to an investor who's done this before, they're going to either feel like you answered all their general questions, their main big questions, or they're going to feel like you left something out. What did we leave out of this one? Nothing about competition. We never mentioned the competition, right? Sometimes you do that on purpose because you want to know what the first question is going to be. Sometimes you do that because you're pressed on time. This was the slides from a 5-minute demo day pitch. There was no time to cover absolutely everything, so we skipped competition on purpose. Don't skip how you make money. Don't skip the financial overview of where you're going. Some things you shouldn't skip, but skipping competition is sometimes okay. So by now you should understand what the opportunity is in terms of what we do and how big it could be. You should understand how this business makes money. You should understand whether or not that curve we talked about, that growth in the future, sounds reasonable or sounds ridiculous. And you should know, it should always end on an ask. You should always know what this company wants next. So let's go through this slide by slide so you understand how it was put together. And in the book, we'll actually go through slide by slide to show you how we made it this good. This is not a Steve Jobs level of pitch, but it's a really good investor pitch. All right, rule one, as you're putting together a slide deck, is each slide exists to tell just one piece of the story, not 2 or 3 or 4. When you're pitching, you shouldn't sit on a slide for 2 or 3 minutes. If you're sitting on a slide, not moving it because you're still talking about what's on that slide, you need more than one slide. There's something else that you're talking. There's 2 or 3 topics that you're talking about. Each slide's only there to tell one piece. So one piece, one bit. So opening slide. I did the opening on purpose incorrectly. The opening slide, you should not say, "Hi, thank you for inviting me." You should not say that I'm about to present you a company. What you should say is something interesting. The first words out of your mouth should be interesting to the audience and make them put down their phones and lean in and want to know more. And so the first line from this pitch should be, access to financial services is a fundamental human right. Because people don't go around talking about fundamental human rights as finance. So that's an interesting line. So literally, I mean it. You stand up in front of the crowd or you turn on the computer and you're ready to pitch. And the first thing you say is something interesting, like access to financial services is a fundamental human right. Chicken basket solves the problem of hunger, poverty, and unemployment with a chicken. It's one of my favorite lines of all time. All right. You don't have to introduce yourself here at all. Nobody cares who you are yet. You have to impress them first before they want to know your name, before they'll bother to remember your name. So anything on the bottom here, just hints. Okay, so the cover slide should be really simple. A really pretty company logo. It's your first impression. You want to make a good first impression. You got to have a good company name and a really nice logo. You have to have some hint on that first page into something about what you do. And that one, we know it's in finance. That's it. That's all we need is a hint that it's in finance. That will alleviate the worry by the audience that you're ever going to get to a solution. And then you're going to want your name on there so that they can remember that later when they pull up the slide deck later and say, well, who was that person who presented me that finance company? Can't remember its name. I don't remember that person's name either, but it's right there on the front page of the slide deck. That's what it's for. And the date's there as well so that they can 2 years later go, oh, yeah, I saw Insambuco 2 years ago, in case they didn't fund you. Right. All right. In terms of what you say, that's it. Right. Just say something interesting and then go to slide 2. And if you don't have anything interesting to say, don't say anything. Just go to slide 2. I already covered this, right? So good logo, a little bit of hints, Nate and time. Okay, the next slide, slide 2 is the problem slide. Right, so on this slide, you're supposed to present a problem. So best is to use as few words as possible. So again, I'm going back to this slide. There's just a few words at the top of the screen. It's not exactly the right problem in this case for this particular company. You want the problem to match where the solution is. And this, in this case, yes, it is farmers, but it's farmers savings. Probably could have taken a few more iterations to hone that down here. I like problems as images more than text, especially when we're tackling problems like hunger. You want to show about hunger, show a really pretty picture and take the SDG picture of hunger, like just the square number 2, right? Two no hunger, or 0 hunger, I think it's called, and a pretty picture of food. That's it, right? And if you are talking about hunger or poverty or climate, you really shouldn't spend more than 15 seconds on that problem slide. You should really just say, if we go to this, what you should say, no more than 30 seconds on problem. This is one of the issues that a lot of first-time entrepreneurs have, is they dwell on that problem and they talk about it for 2 or 3 minutes. No, don't do that. You want to talk about your solution way more than you talk about the problem. So if you only got 5 or 10 minutes to pitch, 30, 45 seconds on the problem. And again, if you're solving poverty or hunger or unemployment or climate change or anything that's well known, literally you can say, we're dealing with hunger, you know the problem, let's move on. Just makes you feel like you got some urgency. In terms of design, again, I like one big image. The one we just showed you is a bunch of little images. You know, don't put any, one little thing on, there's no border here, right? So the images go all the way to the edges of the screen. There's no borders between the images. None of these images are distorted. They're all exactly the same shape as they were when they were taken. People mess that up as well. You have to crop the images to make it work out this way. You have to find images that fit together if you're going to do multiple images. You got to sweat those details. You got to make it look pretty, look elegant, look well presented, well put together, because again, first impressions. If your slide deck looks like a designer made it, well, the audience is going to think, well, this is a really good company. Look at the level of detail they put into their slide deck. Okay, next slide. We get to slide 3. Tends to talk about a trend, or tends to talk about something about timing. In this case, it's kind of problem and a half. Everybody this year, the year we did this one at Fledge, everybody wanted to talk about their mom. And it's not a bad piece of storytelling to pull in your mom. Everybody goes, "Aw." In this case, it kind of fits. So we let them go with this slide being mom representing the unbanked Ugandans, but really it's a tie-into opportunity size. So another way to say this is who's the customer, and let the audience understand and kind of relate to that person as having the problem. So we'll call this the customer slide. We're presenting mom has this problem. Ideally, you're explaining this in terms of a real person. Ideally, you're talking about a real customer you have. Sometimes 3 people, 3 customers that you have. If you have 3 different kinds of customers. If you have a 2-sided business, you can talk about the 2 sides. If you have a 2-sided business is a marketplace. If you have a normal business, 1 or 3. For some reason, 2 doesn't work as well. So 1 or 3 customers that have this problem. And you really want to make it personal. You want to make it so that the audience cares about this person and wants to see them solve this problem. That's generally what you're aiming for. And again, in terms of design, you know, a picture of the person and their name, right? That's really all you need. In this case, we had a few more pieces of text because we wanted some statistics. You know, don't go overboard with statistics. We had the statistic here of how many people are unbanked. Probably could have done that in fewer words. Fewer words is better. Also, make sure that whatever format you're using to do the pictures and the text, you just keep that consistent. So just to go back here one more time, what we're doing in this slide deck is that the top or the bottom or both are not images. The images in the middle. If we flip back to the first slide again, the top was black, the middle was images, and we're playing one more trick with color here. We're using the same format for the slides at the beginning, and then we present the next slide. And again, you can see the images in the middle. It's a little fuzzy, but that's the best picture we could find on the internet. And we have that black on the top and the bottom, as few words as possible. And in this case, we're going one slide in a slightly different direction. This is the trend or the wrong solution. So a trend would be, oh, look, mobile money is picking up. We're a mobile money solution. That would be a trend line. In this case, we're presenting something that's slightly different than that, which is, look, the trend is Sakos. There is a solution to this problem. It's called Sakos. It's just not quite right. It's not quite the right solution. It's not exactly solving the problem as good as it could. Something better is coming clearly in the next slide. Right. Sometimes this would be a graph if it's a trend line. There's lots of ways to tell the story. That's why I'm saying sometimes this, sometimes that. There is no one set of slides that you always put together. You got to find the right story for your company. In terms of talking points, again, really briefly, I only sat on that slide for maybe 15, 20 seconds. I want to be able to say, hey, there's a solution out there, but it's not quite right. And here's why. In terms of the design, we're just going to be consistent again. And then finally, we get to the solution. And one thing we're doing different on this pitch than is a common thing to do is we changed colors. We used the black slides for the problem, and now we're using the white slides for the solution, just to make a clear distinction, just to make it clear which part is us and which part is the world. I can't say I do this very often, but I like the way this one turned out. So here we have the solution, right? So Mobus is the brand name of the solution. Nsumbuko is up in the corner here, so we don't lose our branding. And in this case, it's a two-sided product. It has the Sakos and the farmers. So in this case, there is separation between the two images in terms of keeping them separate, because we want to be able to talk about the two sides of the business. And again, it's kind of the same format as before with a little logo at the top. So it's still a little text at the top, with text at the bottom, image in the middle. So we haven't totally lost the style of this presentation. And again, these images are not squished. They're cropped, right? I'm cutting off the heads of these people here so that we can get enough of the computer in there. Like, you guys sweat those details. It's got to fit into this screen here. You don't just fit it in by squishing the image down. It looks terrible when you do that. And these are just stock images we found on the internet. These are not actual pictures of customers, right? We put the slide together in, or the slide presentation together in Seattle. So we didn't have access to the customer base when we were doing that, right? If you do, take real pictures of real customers. All right, so slide 5, we finally get to the solution. We're 5 slides into 12, and we're in the solution, and we can't spend more than 45 seconds or a minute on the stuff before this. We got to zip through those to get to the solution. The audience wants to hear what the solution is. That's really why they're here. The problem is just setting it up so the solution sounds better. First slide of the solution, you do not provide them with all those details. You do not do the A4 chip slide, right, with a whole bullet list of solutions. Just tell them what the solution is, and just at a high level, and just enough that they want to see more details. Right? Don't give them all the details up front. You want them to want more, right? Okay, what you should say on here, again, just the biggest thing possible. What did I say on this? I said, hey, we have a solution. It's called Mobus. It's a modern cloud-based solution. It puts the back end in the cloud, and it puts the front end on the phone. Right, that's what we were talking about. So quick level, a high level solution, just the key benefits, not a list of all the features. And if you have a physical product, if you sell something in a bag, I want a picture of that bag. If you sell a service, I want a picture of the service in action, right? If you don't, I want a picture of your facility. I want a picture of something, or just happy crops. We did a company in Tanzania that does cooking oil. And actually, we didn't take a lot of pictures of the cooking oil bottles because they're not that pretty. We used in that slide deck a whole lot of pictures of sunflowers because it's sunflower oils. And sunflowers are pretty. So we just used that as our representation. Then we finally dig in one level deeper. So you're going to go at least 2 levels deep on the solution. If you have a very complicated product, you may go 3 or 4 levels deep. If you're doing a software product, we want to see screenshots of that. We don't have that here. The software wasn't pretty at the time. It wasn't worth showing, so we skipped it. But here we are in level 2. And we have bullet points, just like that A4 chip. These are not the best bullet points. Transparent is not, it is an important part of this company. Usually I would tell people transparent is just not specific enough, but it works in this setting. Here we have just 3 bullet points on each side, not 5, not 7, certainly not 10, no more than 5 bullet points. Top 5 reasons why anyone should buy this product, right? So again, one level deeper into the solution, and all we're going to do is talk about that one level deeper, right? We want to have questions from the audience still left unanswered, still there for them to ask. We just want to give them enough so that they can hone down their questions and give us some more detailed questions. And in terms of design, ideally, it's a picture. It's a picture of the stuff with some bullets next to it, or screenshots or diagrams. Worst case is what we did here, which is a list of features. Right? And again, if you need more slides to show more detail, go ahead. You can go 5 levels deep into your design if it's important. Then we get to the slide, which is sometimes earlier. Sometimes we'll put this before the solution, but this is a really good place to put it in this presentation. It's, here's the problem. Oh my God, look at, there's a problem. A lot of people have this problem. Great, we have a solution for it. Look how many people need this, right? 5,000 SACOs need this product. That's a lot of customers. And then there's 300,000 more over in Kenya. So the reason we did the 300,000 on here is because 5,000 is a big number, but it's not a huge number. We wanted a huge number. Often there's $1 billion of business out there. Or there's a trillion shillings to be had if only we grab this opportunity. So 5,000 wasn't big enough. We grabbed 300,000. We're like 6 years in this company. We're still not in Kenya. Right? This is a big enough opportunity. So we want a big number, right? Steve had 25,000 up on the screen. That's a number, not huge. I like millions and billions, but it's a big number, physically big number on the screen. And all you're going to say is how you got to that number. In this case, it's not very complicated. The top-down analysis is there's 5,000 SACOs. If we were talking about maybe SACOs that have 500 farmers or fewer, well, then we would do a little analysis and say that, well, there's 5,000 SACOs in Uganda that have, there's 10,000 SACOs in, or maybe more like there's 6,000 SACOs in Uganda, 5,000 have under 500 farmers, if that were important. But that's how we would say it to work our way down to the number that's on that screen. Sometimes we would do it like, well, there's 42 million people in Uganda, 38 million are farmers. There's an average of, I can't do this in my head, 200 farmers per SACO. That gives us 5,000 SACOs. That would be an analysis to show why it's 5,000. Big font. That is a 100-point font right there on the screen. Right? That's not the whole screen. If that was the number I was presenting, 100, it would be a 150-point font because that's just not big enough. Okay, and then we get to the next slide is how this company makes money. In this case, it's a two-sided business. We make money from both the SACOs and the farmers. But if you only make money on one side, that's fine. But explain how you make money. In a simple system, if you have a very complicated business model, even if you have a medium complicated business model, even if you just sell small, medium, and large, don't talk about small, medium, and large. Just talk about the average price and the average everything. If you sell 2 different products, well, then you use the width of the screen to show 2 different products, one on the left, one on the right. Price on the left, price on the right. Right? In this case, we have a two-sided market. We're showing the 2 prices we charge to each side of the market. And again, keep it simple, right? Don't explain it in great detail, just enough that they understand how you make money. And if they want to ask more questions about it, that's good. If they ask you at the end of the presentation, how do you make money? Then you've messed it up. In terms of design, price can be shown on a price list. You've all seen those internet pricing where it's small, medium, and large with prices on it. That's fine too. If you have a way to make one of those pages, or you have one of those pages, or you have a flyer with 3 prices on it, use that. Otherwise, show a picture of your product again. with just a price next to it in your local currency. All right, and we get to the traction slide. This one's really important, right? So everything up to everything's been important in here, but this one's really important, especially in investors, right? This is one you don't show you may or may not show your customers. You may show your customers, oh my God, look at all the Sakos we have. You may not show the bottom half of this to customers. But to investors, they want to see that you actually have some traction, is what we call it. You want to see that you have customers that care about your product. So 9 months, this is a true story. First 9 months of this company, and they had 500 Sakos signed up. Now, one more thing you want to go and make sure your audience isn't doing is thinking. It sounds weird, but you don't want your audience to say, well, wait. 500 Sakos, and we charge them $1,000 a year. Great, this company's earning $500,000 a year. Somehow we need to distract them from that because that's not what's true. You know that because you saw the pitch already, but that's not what's happening here. It's 500 Sakos that are testing out the system, not yet paid customers. So we're going to gloss over that and wave our hands, as we say, and try and distract the audience from asking us that question. They may still do that. Oh, you have 500 Sakos. How many of those are paying you? Oh, okay. Well, 50 of them are paying us. The other 450 are trying out the software. Software, sometimes you got to do trials. Even with organic fertilizer, sometimes you got to give it away in order to get people to buy it. Okay, so we got 500 Sakos that, well, do the 500 Sakos have 40,000 farmers, or are 40,000 farmers actually using the software? That's another question that is likely to pop up here. I believe the answer was 500 Sakos have 40,000 farmers, but not all of them use the software yet. And those 500 Sakos have $500,000 in savings on the system, and there really were $200,000 in loans, but not $200,000 of loans that were made while the system was up and running, $200,000 that were being tracked. So all the numbers are real. They're just not as perfect as they could be. They're not like, hey, we signed up 500 paying customers and they dumped in 500,000 new dollars and started doing loans and all that. That would be perfect, but life's not perfect. So again, this slide exists to show proof that customers care about what you're doing. That's it. That's the most important piece of this slide, right? Every slide has a purpose. That's the purpose of this slide. And what you're going to say is any story that gets that creates that belief that customers care about what you're selling. In terms of design, again, big numbers are good. 1 number is fine. 2 numbers is better. 3 numbers is even better. In this case, 3 would have been fine, but we wanted to pull in loans because it's saving and credit. So savings wasn't good enough. We had to talk about credit. And because it's we really have to worry about how many farmers we have. We needed the stat for both Sakos and farmers. So in another company, it might have just been Sakos, savings, and loans, and three numbers, and that would have been sufficient. Then we get to the hockey stick. Right? That's what this is literally called because it goes up and to the right and it grows pretty fast. We want to show growth. So this is the first time we said what our actual revenues are, I believe. So this is supposed to be right now. This pitch is or 9 months ago. Anyway, this is the first data point of real numbers, and then this is supposed to be this year, right? This is I didn't change the years by another year when I updated this. So just imagine this says 2021. So this year we expect to grow 5-fold. Basically what it's saying. And then a few years from now we're going to get to some big number. Some big aspirational number that seems reasonably large, not easy to get to. Right? So if we had just said 250, 500, yeah, that would be okay, but that wouldn't be impressive. So whereas this is 1 year gap, this is not a 1 year gap. The numbers are evenly spaced, but this is a few years out in the future to get to some big milestone. In the case of this founder, he wanted the milestone to be 2 million farmers. And it's kind of alliterative on 2s and 250s and whatnot. And it did take longer than this to actually get to this size. So I don't think he's at this size yet. We're 6 years in. Okay, so this is where you show off where that traction goes, where your company's headed in the next few years. Not more than 5 years out in the future. It's 3, 4, 5 years out in the future. grab some KPIs, not just revenues, something else, right? So this is revenues and farmers. KPI, a key performance indicator, we'll talk about that in a few weeks, is number of farmers. And then you're going to just talk about that. And I just talked about the next two things out. We're here now at 50K. You saw those stats a second ago, and here's where we're going. Often what I see with African companies is the milestone to get you to $1 million of revenue. What you should be wary of is just the speed of getting there. 2-3 times growth year over year is pretty fast. This one had an extra large leap at the beginning, which is arguably a little too fast, but it was a 5x growth. But that part was within reason, and then the next part was another 10x over a bunch of years. So that's a bunch of 2 or 3x years, doubling or tripling for a few years to get to 10x growth. It happens. Successful companies, it happens. And the design for this, I like this design that I have here. I've used it over and over again. It should look like a graph in some form. It can just be a graph off of Excel. It needs to go up and to the right. Up and to the right to investor means good. So make it go up and to the right. Finally, we get the team. Team should be pictures. We want to see the team. We don't need detailed biographies of everybody. If I were really David, I would have told you who these people are in terms of their names. I would have said Sarah and Mark and James and onward with their names. I did use the cliche line, which you should probably use, which is we have a great team. And this is also the point in time when I like people to actually introduce themselves. So we've talked about the problem and the solution and the customers and the opportunity and where this company's going. And so by now, the audience should care about this company and actually want to remember it. And so when we get to the talking points, I'll show you that. If you're pitching to investors, keep in mind that what they're looking for first and foremost, after they're comfortable with the company, is the team. They're not going to invest in your company unless they like your team, unless they really like your team. So this is your first impression to show off your team. And what you're going to say here is my name is, name and your title. Often the way it shows up on stage is, we'll get to that slide before it, the hockey stick. There'll be a one breath pause. Literally, you just stop talking, count to 3 in your head, and you just say something like, ladies and gentlemen, my name is David Opio, founder and CEO of Nsumbuko. We have a great team that's put this together, right? O-Team is my co-founder, COO, and say something about how his background to make him sound great. And we have 8, if we don't know the names, we had 8 more people, software developers and sales and operations that make these SACOs love us. That's it. If you have some logos to show off because your team has worked at some well-known global companies or local companies, great. Throw the logos on there as well. Don't say anything about it, right? You don't have to say everything you put on the slide. You can leave it up there as background and move on. And in terms of design, the most important thing is pictures of the people. Names is second most important, and their titles. If you have advisors, that's great. Make them smaller, stick them in the corner or on the bottom. The fact you have advisors is good. Who they are, I really don't care. As an investor, unless you have Muhammad Yunus or Tony Alumalu, right, or the president of a country, I'm not going to know your advisors. I really don't care. All I want to know is somebody cares about you. That's really what the advisors are there to show off. And then we have a special slide that's not normal. So this was a true story. We really were on the top of the list at the time because there was only Nsumbuko at the time. So we were on the list by the government of Uganda. So we had to show that off. And again, we're going to show that off with a big picture, right? And as few words as possible. So it's not we were endorsed by the government of Uganda. It's not the government of Uganda has a program to endorse solutions for SACOs. It's not the government of Uganda has a new law that says SACOs have to be in the cloud. None of that. As few words as possible is endorsed by the government of Uganda. True statement. A picture of the parliament building, right? Just so there's something in the background that's pretty. Normally we would stick Uganda and Fledge and the other logos on a slide after the team. Here's our accolades. Here are the things we won. Here are the programs we're part of. We would just stick them all on one slide. But that Uganda one was just so big that we had to put it on its own slide. And then to match, we had to do Fledge on its own slide. And at the time, this company didn't have any of their accolades, so there wasn't anything to show off. So this really should be one slide. It's your accolade slide. And again, it should be pretty quick. You're showing it off because investors and customers like to back winners. So you're showing something that makes it look like you're a winner. As many logos as make sense, all of them correct. Like you really have a relationship with those. So the Land Accelerator logo can go on your slide deck now. You've been invited. You can ask permission from WRI to put that on there, and AFR 100 if you want, but ask permission first. Neatly organized logos, not just a jumble of logos. A few words to say what you got out of it, or why you're showing that logo, or what these logos mean. And then we finally get to the last slide, or the penultimate slide, in fact, which is the ask. Right. So again, I want a big number on here. The biggest thing on here should be what the size of the ask is and the currency. And then the rest of it is use of funds. So here we gotta finish with an ask. Even if we're not raising money, we have to ask for something, right? If you are fully funded, but you're out talking to investors because you were invited to a contest or something, make an ask for something. I'm looking for advice. I'm looking for customers. I'm looking for this or that. If you're at a contest, make the ask fit the winnings of the contest. So if the winning is 50,000 US dollars, great. Pick us as winner. Here's what we would do with the $50,000 prize. You may need more than that, but don't tell them that, because that might make them pick someone else. If you said we're raising $250,000, but the prize fund is 50. Well, I'll tell you that the judges may sit around. I've been in the room when this happened, and go, well, this company needs 250, and so 50 is not enough. That company over there is just asking for 50. Let's give it to them. They have a good use of $50,000. This company, they just need too much. Like they don't fit our contest here. It's a great company, and maybe 50 could help them, but 50 is just not enough. So always make the ask fit what the audience can do for you. The words we use to ask for money as we are raising, not we're looking for, not we're started. We want to use that we are raising because it sounds like it's in progress. We don't want to use future tense too much in these presentations. As little as possible, usually only in a slide talking about how much money we're going to earn in the future. Everything else is present tense. We are raising money. We are operating, even if you're just a business plan. If you're working on your business plan, you are doing your business. It's present tense. So we're raising X dollars. Ideally, something about the terms. It says equity or debt. Here's a little bit about the terms. And then use of funds. 3 or 4 bullets on use of funds. Again, not 10 things. Not a budget, just a list. You get to use words on this slide. Right? Again, don't make it wordy, but you actually get to use some text on the slide. You have to list what's on the slide. And then finally, we get to the last slide. And the last slide should look just like the first slide. Should have the same logo. If it needs to be a little smaller, that's fine. But whatever design you used for the first slide, reuse it for the last slide. And instead of just your name and the date, here's where you put your contact information. Neatly put your contact information. Right, so this is David's full name and his email address and his phone number. Don't call that, please. And some website. We don't need the word website. We don't need the word Facebook. We don't need the word Twitter. People know this is Facebook. Well, people know this is Twitter. This is obviously Facebook. This is obviously a web address. This is obviously a telephone number. We don't need the word telephone or email. Right? Those are just redundant. When I say fewest words possible, I mean it everywhere. We don't need the word name in front of this either. Okay, so this is just the last slide. And all you say when this comes up, you don't say, here's my contact information. They know it's your contact information. That's time you're wasting. All you say is your closing line. Ideally, your closing line is either the same as your opening line or something like it. And so this is how Chicken Basket solves hunger, poverty, and unemployment with a chicken. Or so now you know uh, how financial services. I actually don't remember his final line, but now you can see that with this, financial services can be accessed by everyone, making and solving that fundamental human right, something like that. And I already talked about that. And again, what's missing in here is competition. So I will show you what that would look like. I don't have it for this company because we never actually made the slide. There's two and only two ways you can create a competition slide in the normal pattern. There's two patterns that people are expecting. I've seen a few others. I've seen some that are better, but I've seen way too often ideas that people have that are just way worse. So stick with the two competition slides that work. One of them is called a magic square. A magic square, you take two benefits or two features of your company or your product, and you map out where competition lies in that map. You are in the upper right-hand corner. So you pick two things where you are in the upper right-hand corner. And in this case, we have some named competition in the lower left corner, which is great. That's the worst place to be. And then we have some named general categories that are elsewhere in here, which is fine because there's no specific competition here. The other way to do this is a competitive matrix. Competitive matrix has 5 to 7 benefits in the rows and competition in the columns. Then you could do it the other way, but it's wrong. You're gonna cause trouble with your especially investor audience if you don't do it in this particular way. It's 5 to 7 benefits in rows and everybody in columns, and you are the leftmost column. That's just the norm. There's nothing special about this except this is what's expected of you. And so again, we have those named customers here, and we have some just a general category as a column. We have dots filled in. This is Harvey balls. It's more complicated. It can just be dots or check boxes or X's. And you have to pick things where you don't do everything. If you do everything, people won't believe your competitive matrix at all. So there has to be something on here that the other people do that you don't. And it has to be something that's not important. This should be in order of importance. And so the purpose of these slides, just one or the other, not both, one of those slides or the other. The purpose of showing it is to show that you know who the competition is. The purpose of this slide is not to explain all that to the audience. In fact, what you should say when you're on here is as little as possible. You should just pick 3 facts. So if we go back to this, there's all sorts of things on here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 balls that are filled in. All right, plus some other ones. Like we could talk about the 17 things that are filled in one at a time. We could talk about the blanks and the importance of the blanks. Like there's 25 things to talk about on this slide, and we're going to pick 3, and just 3. We're just going to pick 3 factoids, not even facts. 3 little things about this. Hey, look, those guys use government funding, and we don't need that. Those guys use high-tech solutions that are too expensive, and those guys do something else. That's it. And then move on. If we can do the whole thing in 20 seconds, even better. If you're one-on-one with an investor and they want to know more, they will ask. And then you have to know why all the dots are there. You have to be able to talk about 30 different things, but you're just going to pick 3 and move on, right? You're just going to say, hey, look, there's competitors. There's always competitors. There's competitors. Here's why we're better. Move on. And again, in terms of design, you have 2 choices, the matrix or the landscape. And with that, we've covered all the topics that are expected. This slide deck should only be 12, 13, 14, 15 slides at most, right? Sometimes it takes a little bit more to get, I said 3 or 4 slides of details of your solution. So these are the topics, not the slide names. The order, play around with the order. You want it to flow as well as possible. And sometimes that means team is earlier. Sometimes that means that big number, the opportunity size, is earlier. Sometimes the big opportunity size comes first. Sometimes the team comes first. but almost always it's problem first and then solution, or it's usually problem, customer, solution. Sometimes it's problem, solution, customer. You gotta play around with the order until you get one that works really well for you. And with that, I have 6 minutes for questions before I have to go pitch.
Thanks so much, Luni. And I want to bring everybody's attention to this little poll that I created in the chat box. Go ahead and take a second and fill it out and share your opinions with us. And we definitely welcome questions for 5 minutes. So if anyone has a question, feel free to unmute yourself and ask it.
Thank you, Simfwe. If I pronounce that right. Yeah, you've heard the saying less is more. Really honing these down and iterating on them. I don't think I said that word enough here. This is not the first draft of this pitch deck. This is like the 8th or 9th version of this pitch deck. It just keeps getting shorter and shorter and shorter and simpler and simpler and simpler until taking out more would, lose enough of the story that people would be asking too many questions.
Yeah. Hi, Luni.
Hi.
I have a question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. How many slides do you recommend us to use, and how many minutes are we allowed to speak?
Okay, that's 2 questions. First one is 12 to 15 is normal. So it should land somewhere between 12 and 15 slides. And in terms of time, they usually tell you. So it depends on what your setting is. You always want to ask if you're formally asked to pitch at an event, the first question you should say yes. And then this first question you should ask is, what's the format? How many minutes do I have to speak? Is it live Q&A? How big is the audience? Is there slides behind me? All the questions about how it's going to run. If it's a formal event, it'll be either 5 minutes or 7 minutes or 8 minutes or 10 minutes. Every once in a while, you'll get a event where it's 20 minutes, where they'll say it's 20 minutes per company, 10 minutes to pitch and 10 minutes for Q&A. Whenever I hear that, I will always aim for an 8-minute pitch and go short on the pitch and long on the Q&A. Whatever time they give you, you are actually going to want to remember Steve Jobs. You're going to want to practice your pitch and aim to be done 30 seconds early. What a mistake that almost everybody makes is they don't practice, and the other mistake they make is that they go long. And so they'll be presenting, and someone in the room will have a little sign that says 1 minute left, and you'll have 5 slides left because you haven't been practiced. You don't know how long it takes. You'll have 1 minute left, and you'll rush through the end. You've ruined your chances of winning that contest or getting the investment if you rush through the end. Whatever the time is, you want to practice at that time. If they give you 5 minutes, you want to take out some slides so that you can get through it in 5 minutes. And then if you're sitting on one-on-one with an investor, you know how long your meeting is. You still only want to pitch for like 15 minutes at most. And what will happen in a really good meeting with an investor, depending on the culture, sometimes this doesn't happen due to cultural issues, but what happens in a really good pitch in an open culture is that it will take you an hour to get through your slide deck, because as you present, they'll ask questions and you'll answer them then, or you'll say, wait, that's coming in a slide or two, and then you'll get to it, and then they'll ask their question again then. And you stretch out the pitch to be a conversation. You win if it's a conversation. You lose if they stay silent and ask you no questions. A lot of you don't have slide decks. All right.
Yes, yeah, a lot don't have slide decks, so this is going to be an invaluable resource for getting those slide decks together. And just to answer a few other questions about the Land Accelerator program specifically, is we'll be asking everyone who wants to be considered for the $5,000 grant to submit their slide decks to us, along with an application form at the end of the program. The program's ending in July, at the end of July, so you have some time for that still, but get started. And For the folks who will be participating in phase 2, the presentations that
Hold on, Amanda. I got to go. I actually have an investor.
Yes, so sorry. Yes, sorry.
And real quick, to Ben's question, a written business plan is different than a slide deck. I like to make the slide deck first, and then write the business plan is just the words that come out of your mouth while you're pitching the plan or pitching the pitch. That's the easiest way to do it. There's a few more details you're supposed to put in the business plan. You'll find that in the book. The book's free, the first book, the blue book. And then Abraham asked a question about what about non-live decks? Yes, it's useful to have some more text. Sometimes I'll have 2 decks. I'll have the one I present and the one that I email out, and the one I email out has a little more text in it. Not too much more, just enough that they can remember what that image meant. Just like a few more words at the top. Often, no, I really just want them to hear my pitch and get a copy of it. And then if they have more questions, do that over email. And with that, I will leave you, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you, Luni. Have a great day, great presentation on your way. And so for everybody else, I think there were a few more additional questions. So I was really glad that Luni could remind me that he had to leave so quickly. We will be having 3-minute pitches at our event. It'll be way in October, so I have plenty of time to plan for that. The reason for 3-minute pitches is we plan to have 10 to 15 entrepreneurs. So we need to do things a little bit quicker to get the audience interested in as many companies as possible without it being a very, very, very long event. But again, as Luni was saying, sometimes the shorter presentations are to raise people's interest and to have them ask you questions and follow-ups. So what we've done for our virtual impact days in the past is we have provided survey forms to the investors and attendees in the room so that they can select if they're interested in receiving a follow-up contact from you, and then you'll be provided that information at the end, and you can follow up with any person who says they were interested in chatting with you. And they'll also be giving you feedback. So that's just a little glimpse into the future. So that'll be a 3-minute pitch. But the important thing that I think we can get from this entire presentation is you can make the deck first, because from there you can decide if there are certain aspects of it you need to leave out due to time, or if you need to go speak faster or shorter, not speak faster, but have fewer points that you're making, or if you have time to expand on a few topics or not. For many of the folks who filled out the form and didn't have any slide decks, it can seem daunting to start. But the important thing is you have a really nice guide right now for you. You'll be getting those slides later today. And not only just slides saying, oh, what are the slides, but really specific points to help you figure out what that should be. And for the first, yes, of course, the attendance link. So we will still be going on for half an hour longer. So the attendance slide should be coming up. Give me a second. I'll put the attendance in there. I saw that as a question coming through. Pulling that up now, guys. All right, pulling that up now. We welcome your inputs as well, as the attendance link gives you the opportunity to provide some feedback as well. Wanted to also take this time to share, we had 52 people fill out this form today. As you could see, it was live. About half of the folks who responded have a slide deck. The other half are working on it. And then just wanted to share a word cloud about how people are feeling. Some people feel like it's interesting, inspired. They feel excited. I did see some people who were tired about, thinking this was a lot to do, but they feel like there is some great suggestions here, and it's something they can do over time. It's something they need to work on. So wanted to welcome everybody who had responded to that. Let me go ahead back and just remind you, check the chat box for the attendance link. I do see a couple of questions that are happening. So let me stop sharing this screen. and go to the folks who I see have their hands raised. Legrand, would you like to ask your question?
Oui, merci. Si j'ai la parole, I am Legrand Chirimami from East the Democratic Republic of the Congo.
Okay, would you like to ask your question
I
in
think I will speak in English, in French, sorry.
French? Okay.
Oui,
Go ahead.
j'avais deux petites questions concernant les pitchs. Et la première, c'est par rapport à une partie financière. Est-ce qu'il est conseillé de donner les noms de gens, ou bien de montrer qu'on a déjà gagné certains prix, juste une façon que les investisseurs peuvent avoir confiance en nous? Donc, si on a déjà gagné certains prix dans le passé, est-ce qu'on peut mentionner ça dans les pitchs? Est-ce que c'est conseillé? Une deuxième petite question, c'est par rapport aux compétiteurs. Des fois, quand on exagère à beaucoup parler de compétiteurs, c'est comme si on vend ces compétiteurs, on fait leur promotion, bien on fait leur propagande. Alors, comment on doit se tenir quand on doit parler de compétiteurs? Parce que c'est aussi une partie importante. Merci.
Okay, those are some great questions, and I can try to answer both of them. And also other folks, welcome to put some responses in the chat box if you had other ideas. As far as for the finances, a lot of the times what you'll be reporting on are aggregated finances. So, you saw in the slide deck that they talked about having $50,000 in revenue from farmers or having 100,000 in revenue from SACOs. They didn't particularly name every farmer. They didn't name every SACO. If you have strategic partners that you're working with, if they're strategic clients, so if you are selling, let's say, your fertilizer to a large company like Walmart, I just made up Walmart, you can say that, anything that you feel comfortable sharing that your customers are also okay with. But you don't have to, you can aggregate it and you can say, oh, a large national retail chain, and leave it at that. But if you want to brag, there's a place for bragging, talked about using logos, talked about using names. So it's definitely up to you. And as far as talking about competition, the competition is real. And if you don't address the competition, that will be a question. So as Luni brought up, they didn't have time to talk about competition in the format of the presentation that he had created. However, he knew he might get some questions on it. So having a slide ahead of time about the competitor is important because everyone will say, well, why would I go with you? You're new. I don't know who you are. Aren't there 25 other people doing this? And you really have to say, yes, there are. Here's why I'm better. And that's what the comparison chart will let you do. And it's about, showing them that you've done your research, that, yeah, we know there's other people doing this in one way or another. And the other interesting thing is sometimes people say, I don't have competition. No one's doing this. Well, maybe you have a completely new invention. So the actual invention doesn't exist elsewhere. But the thing is, people have been solving the problem in other ways up until this point. So that would be your competition. So those are just a few notes about competition. I would not feel that you're promoting somebody else for a chance, because you obviously feel that you can do the job better. So you can figure out how to say why or how. And I see Mamen has a question, and I believe Mamen might also be speaking French. So go ahead. If Mamen is available, please go ahead. You are muted. I'm going to check out the chat box in the meantime. Someone said resend the attendance link. Thank you, Damiola, for resending the attendance link for the folks. I see another question from Damiola.
Bonsoir.
Maman, okay, go ahead, please.
Je vais parler, maintenant on vient d'être édifié sur le pitch deck. Donc, on sait vraiment que c'est un outil très important donc, pour convaincre un investisseur vraiment en 5 minutes. Et maintenant, la phase land accélérateur ici, c'est la première phase. Donc, il y a une seconde phase. Donc, le pitch deck là, donc c'est dans le perspective de faire la seconde présentation ou quoi. Donc, maintenant, le pitch deck là, ça fait partie donc du critère de sélection du deuxième phase pitch deck, ou bien on fait juste le pitch deck et il y aura un des investisseurs en ligne avec lesquels on va communiquer, on va vendre nos projets. Donc, si vous avez bien saisi ma question, donc le pitch deck là, c'est dans l'optique donc de postuler au deuxième land accélérateur, ou bien on va préparer les pitch deck. Donc, à la fin de ces sessions en ligne là, on aurait les investisseurs en ligne avec lesquels on va vendre nos projets. Merci.
Thank you for the question. So the answer is yes to both. So the pitch deck is, as Luni was saying before, a tool that can help you with all of your contacts, with all of your outreach, creating partnerships. So the pitch deck, you can create it for seeking partnership, for recruiting employees, recruiting team members, for reaching out to and sharing with investors. So it's going to serve you no matter what. That's why we're making it a part of the Land Accelerator program. It's a requirement to send us a slide deck for the $5,000 grant. Yes. And we want that slide deck to be kind of good because we want you to be able to use it in the future in your own networking. In addition, the same slide deck will also be a requirement to move to phase 2. So it's a requirement for the $5,000 grant, and it's a requirement for phase 2 as well, if you choose to go for phase 2. Phase 2, we will only be selecting 10 to 15 companies. And a part of phase 2 is tailored mentorship around the slide deck, around your actual pitch, around your ask. And the point is not just to make your pitch better, but the point is if we as mentors can understand what you're working on and talk to you and exchange ideas, we might help identify ways that you can communicate yourself better. Mentors might also help identify ways that you might want to try new things, and it's up to you. But going along with our very first session with Luni of always innovating as a way to improve your business. So this slide deck can serve as a springboard for identifying new improvements that you can make. So it will be used as a tool in phase 2 as well to help mentors gather around your business and how to improve it. So I think that maybe that has cleared up some of those questions. Let me see if there are a few more questions in chat box here. Let me see. What? I got a nice question.
Hello, I have a question.
Oh,
Amanda.
yes, okay, we'll go with Wamola's question afterwards. So Wamola, if you're available.
I have a question.
Second, we'll go 1 second, Oyelemi. We'll go with her first, and then we'll go with Wamola, okay? Olayemi, go ahead, please.
Thank you very much, Amanda. My question is, can you please help us with the number of investors or partners that we can give, we can make our pitches to?
Could you just repeat that one more time? Somebody was on.
Okay. I said, can you give us a list of partners or investors that we can give pitches to on our companies?
We don't have that list. We're actually, forming that ourselves. So the answer is I don't have it. The answer is you can make one for yourself from researching in your communities who might be possible. Let's see with the next question, please. I believe Elizabeth had her hand up. Then we'll go with Million. Elizabeth, yes? Go ahead. Yeah. You are muted, so yep. There you go. We can hear you now.
Éloigné?
Yes, please go ahead.
Vous m'entendez maintenant, je crois?
Okay.
Oui. Alors, moi, j'ai une préoccupation, excusez-moi, parce que je suis un peu embarrassée et je voudrais exactement savoir cette présentation avec les investisseurs, quel est son format? Parce que la présentation qui est avec des diapos où on présente, on s'exprime, on parle, et une autre présentation qui peut être une présentation écrite, est-ce que ce sont les deux qui iront ensemble? L'écrit étant donné que ça peut être un peu plus long, alors que le speech devra être une économie de notre écrit.
Sure. So the format will be a deck, and you bring up a very good strategy, however, which is, making the deck is, a very specific format, which Luni had gone over, and you will see. And however, when you're actually thinking about presenting it, what you can do is actually write out what you want to say, and then you can practice that. So when Luni was talking about how Steve Jobs practiced, he really had everything scripted to a T. And many entrepreneurs choose to do that. However, we'll be looking at a slide deck that you'll be able to submit to us that will have around 10 to 15 slides following, the same kind of format that Luni might have elaborated before. So that will be a tool that will be able to work with you. However, everybody is welcome to write out what they're going to say and use that as a tool for their presentations that they make in real life as well. So I want to get to Damilola's question because I saw it before in the chat box. And it was, I need to scroll back up to it. Damilola, if you're able to, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask the question as well while I'm looking for it. Yes, it was, what if you don't have any traction? What do you do? That's very interesting. First of all, for most people who are in this program, you do have traction because that's how you got in the program. Traction is described in different ways. So, first of all, if you've ever sold to anybody, you should count that as traction. Count that as I've made 10 sales and it was $100 total. That's fine. The other traction you might have is, hey, I've actually have created this product and it's sitting here and we're testing it in the field. And here's the results we've gotten so far on 2 hectares of lands with 3 families. It's all a traction. So I want to let everybody know that there's different ways of traction and everybody has some. So don't be shy about it, but definitely include it, because without talking about traction in your slide deck, every single person is automatically going to think you've done nothing and you only have an idea. And if you've done much more than that, you need to be proud of it. And I see, sure. So for Nadia asked if we're only submitting a slide deck and don't get the chance to present it, should we include more words? So let me tell you what we're doing with the slide deck submissions. You can do whichever technique you want because we're able to understand that. I honestly think that you should go for the less words for us, because what we want to see is that you are trying to get together a concise, nice slide deck. But whatever slide deck version you submit is going to be fine. And we're going to give you feedback to improve it as well. So basically, this is just a touch point for us to try and give feedback to as many of you as possible to help your presentation skills come along. So we are not using this slide deck per se to say, oh, you didn't get the slide deck exactly right. We're not going to give you $5,000. That's not it. It's more just a chance for us to say, hey, look, here's about their company. Here's what they put together. Let's see if we can as a Land Accelerator team, get back feedback to help them improve. And then as far as selecting for the top 15, again, we'll need to see certain things in your slide deck, of course, but things like design or wordiness is not, what's going to keep you out of the program for the top 15 either. We're going to be looking at a combination of things, as well as asking folks to create a 1 to 2 minute, well, actually 1 to 5 minute video about themselves. So we're really looking at the same kind of criteria we looked at in order to get you into the program, to select people to the top 15. And we'll be sending that out again, but our criteria is available on our website. But it's, things like, what is the potential it has to scale? What kind of team traction have we seen so far? And let me see any other questions I see. There's a lot of cool stuff coming in the chat box as well. Quand est-ce que on va envoyer le pitch deck? Well, the pitch deck is coming to you via Mighty Networks as soon as Luni sends me his deck, and you can use that to start your pitch deck. Honestly, you saw on the slides that he had 14 different slides, and you're welcome to do that however you want. Now, this pitch deck he presented to us, has been finessed and looks nice. If you guys just submit stuff that's white background and black text and bullet points, that's a great start, because we're talking about getting the content right. You can always go back and update the colors, the fonts, add logos later. So you can start with the slide template that Luni has provided, and you'll be getting that on Mighty Networks. Deadline, guys, the deadline is so far in the future that I don't have it set yet, but it's going to be, I think it's going to be around the 27th to the 30th of July. So we'll get official documentation out to you guys that puts that in stone, but it's so far in the future that don't worry about the deadline yet, but you could start making your slide decks now. I don't know, Legrand, which other template that you might have received. You can use literally any template you want. You can already have a slide deck and send it into us. What we want is for you to be open-minded to the suggestions that Luni presented, because they represent best practices. So it doesn't matter if you have colors or if your slides are out of order. This is just to provide a framework that we don't need to see a slide deck with 100 slides. We don't need to see a slide deck with 30 slides. 15 is a great number. So there you go. Let's see anything else here. If you are in the top 15, you can present in French or English, as we will continue to offer simultaneous translations. And your pitch deck can be in French or English as well. We all read French well enough that we should be able to read your French slides. So please feel free to communicate in the language that you feel most useful. Now I'll go to Million, who has had his hand up for a while. Yes, Million.
Okay, Amanda. My question was, I have a slide deck prepared, and I may submit a slide deck with 15 slides. But if I am about to pitch for about 3 minutes, am I supposed to prepare another pitch deck with fewer slides? That is my question.
Yes, great question. So this 15 slide deck, I think you might have heard Luni discuss that there are so many different lengths of pitches that people are asked to give. So you can have a slide deck that has 15 slides, and maybe it will take you 5 to 10 minutes to go through. Well, you don't have to worry about your 3-minute pitch until October. That's when we'd be having our pitch day. So I would not worry about that right now. If you want to start practice your pitching at your house, so if you make your slide deck and you want to start practice your pitching, you can go ahead and aim for a 5 to 8 minute pitch. So when you come and you've got to present in 3 minutes, then you can decide what information you need to cut and what information you will keep, so that everybody will find your presentation interesting and want to follow up with you.
Okay. Still
Hello?
one more.
Okay,
Can I go?
sure, please.
All right. Okay. Is it okay if I use my own template?
Yes.
Because I am working on it already.
Yeah, you can use your own template. Everybody can use their own template. We want you, however, to really consider some of the points that were put here, and your slide deck might already actually be covering them, because the points that Luni laid out today are pretty, they use a lot of common sense. They cover a lot of things that you might have already been covering in your template anyway. But some of the main points that he might have been suggesting are just to make sure you cover these key components. So you can see it more of a checklist as well. Like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. I should probably add that in. Or, oh yeah, this is too many words on the slide. I should probably erase some of the words on the slide. So I think you can incorporate some of these ideas into templates you might already be working on.
Thank you, Amanda.
Yeah, I have a question, please.
Yes.
Is it allowed if the slide is not up to 15 pages?
I didn't understand what you said. Can you say it again?
I said, is it allowed if the slide is not up to 15 pages? We are saying about 15 pages is okay. So what if the information is already detailed and the pages are not up to 15?
So if it's above 15?
If it's less than 15 pages.
Sure. So I would say that you should go through the presentation that Luni did and just double check and see if there's anything you can gather from it that you think would be useful for your presentation. If it's less than 15 slides, we're not going to say anything. Honestly, this is just a guide. So this could work out, but we would look forward to providing feedback for sure that might be useful for you. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I see Maman has another question. Would you like to go, Maman? You are muted. Yep.
Voilà, c'est bon?
C'est bon.
Ok, d'accord. J'ai dit maintenant, si on a le pitch deck prêt et la petite vidéo que Amanda a demandé. Donc, on va envoyer ça tout de suite, ou bien il y a un temps qui est requis où on va nous demander d'envoyer ça. C'est ça ma question.
Sure, we're gonna ask for submissions in the last half of July. And so we're gonna put out a form where you can upload your slide deck, and the same form where you can put in a link to your video. So, Luni's actually going to do a presentation later on in the program about making a video, but a little preview is it can be anywhere from 1 minute to 5 minutes. You can film it on your cell phone. However, we want it to be kind of good quality. So there's some best practices that he'll go over, such as if you're going to, we want you to film on location, whether that's at your manufacturing plant or in the field with some farmers, or at a store. And since you're going to be on location, you might have to plan a few things ahead of time, like that the factory is not actually making a lot of noise for the 2 minutes that you'll be videographing. Also, you will ask a friend to film for you. You won't film it yourself. The friend will be filming you, some basic things like that. Thinking about the lighting, thinking about the mic, like the audio. So we'll have a session on that, but we really don't need it to be very, very complicated. And you're not going to get really points taken off. It's really going to be points added on for showing us a little window into your world. But yes, we will have a simple application form where you can upload your PowerPoint slides as well as put the link to your video there. Let's see. We have one more question. We have one more minute in our session. And I wanted to say, you know, we'll be having our Thursday office hours as well. So Thursday office hours will probably be pretty interesting, which is we can have more question and answer. We can also get online, and anyone who has a pitch deck, you might want to share it with us. So if anybody wants to share their pitch deck with us next Thursday, you can just email me and I can put you on the list. So I'm putting my email right there. And we'll see if anybody is brave and wants to share their pitch deck, just to see it going forward and start the conversation. And other people, if you've started your decks, bring them with you on Thursday, because when we get into small groups, you can even share your decks with your other teammates for some of their feedback and questions that they might have. So really, next Thursday will probably be quite interactive application of the decks, you know, in real life. So if you can bring your decks, if you want to make a really basic deck before Thursday, I would recommend you to do that. That would be really fun. And other questions, you can also be throwing them on Mighty Networks. I think there's cool and awesome questions here. So I want to continue the conversation on Thursday and welcome you to our office hours on Thursday. We're going to have it from 6 to 7 p.m. on Kenya, like we do every week. And we also are having our translators join us there. So if you speak French, bienvenue, because we will be having our translators there in the main room as well. So at this, I think that I will end a little bit on time today, because I know that we're going to have Thursday to continue more question and answers. And I really look forward to posting this information on Mighty Networks. And you'll also be getting some really cool recordings from our sessions last week. So I really want to appreciate you for your time. And I'm so glad to see folks again every week, feeling like we're getting to know each other, and really excited about continuing this. And I wonder, Teiko, if you wanted to close us with any parting words as well from AFR 100 from out in EPAD today. If you're available, you're on mute. And if you're not available, that's fine. Oh, yep, there you go.
Yes, Amanda, thank you very much. Bonsoir à tous, and good evening, everyone. Just like Luni mentioned, we are finalizing getting the publications, these publications to you all, so that you'll be able to prepare the slides on time and have the content. So if you bear with us, I will have the matter resolved as soon as possible. Thank you.
Fantastic to hear, Luna. We're very excited about getting those ebooks out to everyone who's participating. And thank you guys all so much. And hopefully you've had the chance to fill out the attendance form today. And I'm going to drop that in there one more time before we leave. So if you haven't had a chance, go ahead, click on it, open it, and I'll see how many people have signed up so far, just to share. We've had 68 people. So I did see 76 on here from before, so a few more people might have missed it. So thank you so much. Thank you, Land Accelerator family, Simfuwe, thank you, Legrand.
Thank you, bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Amanda.
Bye. Bye.
Merci.
Bye. Bye.
Merci.
Peace. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you a lot.
Thank you, Amanda. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. Bye, everybody.
You.